Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Moy Style podcast. So today we have Coach Jay. He's one of our coaches at Westmoore Highschool, and he works a lot with our outfielders. And so I really wanted to bring him on today because I feel like sometimes outfield gets neglected, and I think it's a very very important position. So, Coach, I appreciate you for being on today. How about we get started with you introducing yourself, and then we just kind of roll with the question.
Like you said, I'm Coach Joseph. I grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I played baseball from my junior year all the way on through college, and then went to a couple of pro tryouts the summer of 23. And then I actually played when I was younger, but took some time off. But I always played outfield my whole life, and now I'm coaching over here at Westmoore.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. Now, if you're looking at an outfielder for the first time, okay, what are you looking for? Like, what are the main things that you start looking at the most?
Some of the biggest traits I'll look for with guys are their knack and ability to find the ball, like good reads off the bat. Because some guys actually have that naturally. I've seen guys that don't really necessarily have to take a bunch of reps and they just naturally know where the ball is going to be. I think that comes with in-game repetition over time. Obviously, tools like speed, arm strength, and things like that. But genuinely, I look for guys that make good reads off, reading the ball off the bat, and then having the necessary tools as well that kind of play into playing outfield.
Okay, so if you're looking at an outfielder and they're having a hard time, especially the younger outfielders, they have a hard time, getting reads off the bat, right? So they just don't know how to work on that first step. So what would be one thing that you would work on the most?
Live repetition is something that you can only simulate so much of that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times what I used to do, even still nowadays, I teach the guys to do this, is whenever they're watching games or they're watching guys hit, even if you're not on the field, if you're in the dugout, if you're in the stands watching the game, you're reading the ball off the bat, trying to see where the ball is going to land. Track it with your eyes. Track it with your eyes from the dugout. Track it from your eyes on the on-deck circle. No matter where you are on the field, just work on tracking the ball, because that's visually what you're eventually going to be doing whenever you're in the field itself.
Yeah, I think that would be a great drill, right? So if there guys are taking BP, right? So like sometimes, I don't know what you used to do, but I think it's important to have, because obviously the outfielders are going to get tired, right? So they can also track the ball and see where it lands. Did you do that when you were in the outfield, when you were getting tired?
Whenever I would be in college, especially if I had times where I was hurt and I wasn't playing, I would go out there with the guys, I'd stay in center field, and I'd still work on seeing the ball off the bat. Because the thing that's nice too is at your home field, you should be the most comfortable reading the ball off the bat, like no matter what it is. And so even though I wasn't getting repetitions, even though I wasn't playing, and you got guys that sit on the bench and they're not playing, you still get those repetitions by watching and seeing where the ball reads, especially off of left-handers and right-handers. And it's good to do it in all the positions. You don't have to just do it in your position. And I think that was one thing that I took for granted, is I always just stayed in center and I got reads from center all the time. And then whenever I got hurt and came back, I had to end up trying to play the corners because our center fielder was moving better than me. Yeah. So it's just something that I think you can take with you no matter where you are on the field.
Right, so you were naturally a center fielder?
Yeah, I played center field.
So were the angles a lot different, or?
And right and left?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right field and left field, I gained a whole new respect pattern for those guys because I had played center my whole life. I never read the ball, any differently than that. Mm-hmm. And then when I had to go play the corners, I was playing left field for the first time. I saw top spin from a righty, and you get backspin from a lefty, and like little things like that, playing the ball on the line when the ball's diving away from you, right-handed, left-handed. It's a whole new world over there. So like I said, if you've played one position your whole life, even if you're going to college, if you're a younger guy coming to high school, work on all the positions. Don't just limit yourself to just one, because that's what I did, and it kind of set me behind a little bit.
Right. What about communication? Because I know a lot of outfielders, they could be shy. They think they're going to be stepping on other guys' toes, and so like how do you think an outfielder can get rid of that fear?
That's practice. You definitely want to go into it knowing what you want to do as far as like being better with communicating. We preach and preach and preach and preach to our guys. When we're in the outfield, every time we're doing drills, we're calling the balls and things like that. We want to make sure that they're being as loud as they possibly can. Get in the habit of just being comfortable being loud, being comfortable being the leader, being comfortable, going out there and making the play. You got 3 other guys out there with you that are all going for the same ball, and then you've also got infielders that are coming for the ball, but you have priority in the outfield. So, I just try and make that as emphasized as much as I can in practice, is that you guys are the ones that take control.
Right, because when I work with younger outfielders, that's one thing that they struggle with. They think that they're gonna, their teammates are gonna get mad at them because they're calling them off, and And I always tell them that they're going to have better angle moving forward than the outfielder. Than the infielder going backwards. Now, when it comes to, because there's obviously a big debate about, I teach a little bit different than you probably do, but I don't necessarily teach two hands when you're catching fly balls. And well, I'm gonna let you explain what you teach, and then I kind of tell you why I teach what I teach.
Okay, so if a guy is camped under a ball at the high school level, even at the college level, I've always been a big fan of the two hands. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a difference between catching with two hands and putting your hand behind your, the pocket of your glove and squeezing your glove and making the butterfly is what we used to call it, and securing the ball so that obviously the ball doesn't pop out. Now, as you get to higher levels of baseball, you don't necessarily see that as much. But like I said, I was taught that, and I think it's just been a great rule ever since then. So if my guys are in the outfield and they're camped and they have time to get under a ball, I tell them two hands, two hands, two hands, because personally, like I said, we used to have this thing called the Ian Kinsler rule. And if you're a Rangers fan, I think it was back in 2009, 2008, bottom of the ninth inning, Ian Kinsler's at home, Ranger Stadium, catches one hand, ball pops out of his glove, and then that was what I was taught. Like I said, the Ian Kinsler rule is what we called it. So we always went with two hands when we were in high school.
Hey guys, if you'd like to work with me remotely and learn what it takes to become an elite infielder, just send me an email right here below, or you can click the link in the description and book a call with me, or you can also send me a DM, whatever you follow me, and I'll get you started on the right path. All right, and that's a pretty good point too, because I see that a lot too. So I'm okay with outfielders catching, even infielders catching balls one hand. It's just obviously, with the younger ones, I teach in one hand. I know some people may disagree with me. It's because I want them to learn how to position their glove, because a lot of times they'll turn both hands this way, and now they lose the pocket. But obviously, you don't want to catch the ball, below your chin, because now you lose track of the ball. But yeah, like you said, I see a lot of kids that try to catch. They think two hands is putting that throwing hand behind the pocket, and that's, if anything, it could actually push it right out. So that's why I wanted to ask you that, because I think it's pretty important for people to know. Now, when it comes to like the position of your glove, like which way do you teach? Like as far as balls, like when you're camped straight under.
Oh, whenever the ball is directly on a guy, if he's camped under a ball, this is another thing we talked about when me and Moy worked at camp together. I called it a palm up, elbow down, which is where they want their position of their glove to be versus their arm here. We didn't want any leakage. And for like younger guys, I mean, you can even simplify this for high school guys, because you still have high school guys. We'll have guys that come in and they'll still catch the ball like this in the outfield. And so we teach them to keep their palm up and their elbow pointed to the ground. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a big chicken wing right here where your arm is at a 45-degree angle, but I just want like a good 90-degree angle that's comfortable in here on the left side of their body. And then when they get camped under the ball, they should be centered here so that their eyes can see the ball all the way into the glove. You don't want to be right here directly under it, because when you're directly under it, you lose your vision of the ball for a split second, and that can be the difference between catching it and dropping it. And then if you're coming across here, obviously, like I said, the ball's coming out of your vision for a second, but you can see the ball all the way into your glove as long as you keep this palm up and elbow down on the left side of your body, or if you're a lefty, obviously on the right side of your body.
Yeah, no, that's pretty good stuff, because that's pretty important, because some outfielders, like you said, they'll start letting the elbow creep up this way. Now they end up in the palm, and obviously that's the one spot you don't want to get to when you're catching fly balls. Now, when it comes to working on throws, right? So some coaches like to say, throw it all the way, or like all the way on the line. Some like to say just one hop the throws. What do you prefer?
If we're doing drill work, so we're out there practicing and we're doing drill work, I teach the guys to throw it low. If you have the arm strength to throw the ball low enough, to keep it at the cutoff's head, right at the top of his head, or we say aim for the bill of his hat, then if you can throw the ball on a line that hard from there and it gets all the way to the base that you're throwing to, then that's a win. But I'm not going to tell guys to throw it all the way there. Like I said, if you want to show it off and in and out onto your second throw, if you've had a good round and you feel like you got the arm strength to do that, by all means, let it eat. But I like to see the guys miss low, especially in practice, because it gives our infielders a chance. If you throw it over his head, you short hop a guy, okay, you got good infielders out there, they can make plays, but you're not giving anybody a chance, because if we got to cut that ball off and go to second base, we got to cut that ball off because the guy's rounding hard at first and he's already scoring, it doesn't give us a chance.
But you said, I might have missed what you said there. So like when they're keeping it low, what are they aiming for? Their knees, their waist, or?
We're aiming for the bill of the hat. If there's a cutoff, if we're throwing at a cutoff, or aiming for the bill of the hat. Now, if we're doing drill work, there's no cutoff out there, we're just throwing the bases, I try and tell the guys to keep it as low and hard as they can. I want them to throw it maybe like mid-waist level, right, so they can get a good one hop. I just want them to work on their one hops more than anything if there's no cutoff out there. But if there is a cutoff, then obviously it's different.
Right, and when would you work on that? Because obviously you don't always, get to, especially younger, now high school, you get to at least, get a couple of throws, before the game. But at the younger levels, obviously they don't get that many opportunities. So how do they test the ground? Like, do you start off one hop in it, or just go ahead and start off on the line first?
So are you saying like from a warm-up perspective?
Yeah, when they're getting ready.
Pre-game, obviously, if you can get on the dirt, then that's one thing. But if you can't get on the dirt, you got tournament games where you're warming up in the outfield the whole time. You don't get that opportunity. A lot of times I'll have the guys, whenever they're doing their warm-up routines, we'll do our individual work, and you'll come together with your teammates. And what I think we should incorporate this year, which we didn't do a lot of because we played a lot of games on turf, especially my younger group that I had, the freshmen, you could actually have the guys work on their throws. So you'll throw a fly ball up to them and they'll work on their one hops, even if it's on turf. Now, if you're on grass, obviously it's a little bit different, but you just kind of want to find a happy median in that area, especially if they have like a warm-up track area too, where you can see how the dirt will play. You can throw those balls and get them on a one hop, or, see how they'll play off a short hop too.
And I know you kind of mentioned some of the drills. So what are some of the drills that you did last year with them to kind of get them ready, like kind of short distance drills?
Pre-game stuff, we would do ground balls straight ahead, backhand side, forehand side, where you take step and then you rotate through, obviously on that pivot foot, and throw it through. And the thing is too that I liked about these is we did them and we throw. So it's not like you go and field a ground ball, you come up and slow it down. Like, no, you still do your full body's motion. You go 100%, and then you just, you don't throw 100% at the guy, but you let up a little bit and you just throw it all the way through him. That way you get in the habit and rhythm of doing it in a game. You're not going to come up in a game and spin and then hold the ball. You need to work, feel where your body's oriented, feel how you move mechanically, so that you kind of have an understanding of what you're doing before you do it. So we would do those, ground balls, and then we do fly balls as well. We do fly balls straight ahead. We do ones where you got to go back and then come back through them. And then we'd like to do some where you throw them kind of out in front and you let the guy go get it and then keep his rhythm as far as throwing the ball through the cutoff.
Yeah, and what about when you come in through on ground balls? So do you teach them to keep like if I'm a righty, am I feeling the ball on the outside of my left foot or inside of my right foot or way out in front? So what do you teach them?
So if I'm a righty, I'm on the outside of my left foot. And the thing that I like about that is it gives you more vision. Some of the guys we have are pretty clumsy. And so when they're trying to keep the ball on the inside of their left foot, sometimes it can result in them bouncing the ball off their foot, or they'll come and trip through. But the thing I do like about the outside portion of the left foot, whenever you're fielding it, is a lot of times it allows guys to see the ball through, and it teaches them to keep this glove down. Because I get a lot of guys that'll field the ball in the outfield and they want to come through with like a razor glove, and their glove is pointed directly at somebody in the infield. Now the glove needs to be down where the webbing is scraping, almost scraping the bottom where the grass level is or where the turf is, because you get a lot of guys that have those really small pockets coming into field, hard ground balls in the outfield, and then they botch them. And so it kind of helps them get that wrist down. And we'll do some stuff this year where we'll work our wrists to kind of get them oriented so that they can understand where their glove position needs to be before they field ground balls.
Right, definitely. And it's kind of the same thing with infielders. You kind of want those fingers slightly back, kind of like you're talking about. Now, in the outfield sometimes, the games can get long, right? So it can get boring out there, it can be lonely. And so how do you stay focused? How do you stay busy out there?
So for me, this is something that I see differently across a lot of levels, and I see differently across a lot of different types of players as well. I was one of those people that had the characteristics of kind of like the goofy guy. I was out there making conversation with my left and right fielders. I was in there talking about what's going on in the game, asking what we're doing, what we're eating for lunch today. I just had to do those type of things to keep the nerves down, especially whenever you get to a high level and you start playing, state championship level baseball, deep in the playoffs. or you're at a college rival game and stuff like that, there's a lot of deciding factors that are going to make or break you in the outfield, especially if you're not focused. Those split-second reads and stuff like that you're missing because you may or may not be locked in. So my way of locking in was just kind of being loose. And so I teach the guys, if you're out there, make sure that you're, orienting yourself every pitch. See if you can see what he's throwing. See if you can see what habits he's having. If he's leaning in the box, if he's backing out, he's going to pull off this way, or if he's, stepping out and taking himself out of the position to hit the ball, so that you can kind of position yourself to be ready to go.
Right. Yeah, and that was going to be my next question there. How do you position yourself in the outfield? Like, obviously the younger levels, for the most part, the coaches will kind of direct them where to go. But like, how do you figure out, which you kind of somewhat already said it, but how do you figure out if you play this guy more to the right, more to the left, shallow, deep, or?
So if you don't have the luxury of obviously scouting reports, sometimes guys will have scouting reports. Okay, we're going to shift this way. He hits the ball to left field. He likes to bloop it off the, righties, blah, 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 blah. If you don't have a good scouting report to go off of, sometimes you got that player out there that has that natural knack to know where the ball's going to be. And I think that's where I was in high school. So it was kind of hard for me to come into a coaching setting and be like, okay, guys, this is where you're going to play. I just kind of had a good feeling about it personally. And then if I didn't, my coach would adjust me or so. But I mean, the biggest things that you can do is, number one, know your wins. Number two, understand what type of pitcher you have on the mound. If this guy gets ground balls more, if he gets guys that jams in more, obviously you're not going to get more guys out in front with the barrel and stuff like that. So it's just knowing your surroundings, knowing the game, and just having knowledge of what you're doing out there genuinely. I don't really position guys a lot because I wasn't with the varsity level as much. But with the freshmen, those guys, I'll look at tendencies from past at bats, or I'll look at swing habits, or what are we throwing here? If we're throwing a curveball and this guy's been on the fastball all day, maybe he gets early on one and pulls it to right field. Pulls it to left field, so I'll scoot those guys over a little bit. Just little things like that, though.
Now, what about in terms of footwork? So, do you teach anything specific, or what do you teach on footwork?
The biggest things that we teach, I don't necessarily have a preference on when you're fielding ground balls, which foot steps through. My high school coach made it a big deal to take the right foot through, so he called it a block step. And you would take that right foot all the way through. It wasn't like a stutter step. You take the right foot and you go ahead of your throwing plant leg, and then you throw all the way through to gain momentum. And so some of these guys, I tried to teach it to them, and they weren't necessarily comfortable with it. And me being a first-year coach, and we had some really good outfielders who'd been here for 4 years, they did things differently. Right. And that's a hard habit to break for guys that are going to college in a couple of months. So I kind of gave them the ability to let them, as long as they can do it efficiently and quick, we timed it up, saw which one was quicker, it was about the same. As long as they were able to do that efficiently, it was fine. And so my thing with footwork that we work the most is just the footwork behind, when you're camped under a ball, making sure that your feet aren't just planted, making sure that you have, consistent motion, being able to push off that instep of that right foot as well whenever you're throwing the ball to bases. And it's kind of like you talk about in the infield when you're pushing off, you have to be able to use that in all assets of the field. It doesn't matter if you're in the infield, it doesn't matter if you're, throwing the ball from behind the plate as catcher, if you're throwing the ball from the outfield, you have to be able to push off that right foot in all instances.
Yeah, because sometimes I see outfielders, sometimes I really watch outfielders because I want to see their first step, and I feel like their first step is they twist to try to open up, but they don't really go anywhere. And it's like you're saying, we teach infielders to land and push off, because I think that's what's gonna allow you to gain some ground. Now, do you have any advice for younger outfielders? Because a lot of times, some parents or even players and coaches, they don't think outfield is important. So do you have any advice for them?
I'd say the most thing the biggest thing that you can do value-wise for the outfield is, one, never neglect the outfield, and understand that if you are not cream of the crop in the infield, especially nowadays with how good guys are, and you can swing the bat and they want to find a position for you, they're probably going to stick you in the outfield. And, it's all fun and games of you not taking outfield serious until, the ball's hit over your head in a big championship game because you don't take your read serious and stuff like that in BP. And so everybody's different, every coach is going to be different in the outfield and have different preferences and stuff like that. But I think the biggest takeaway is just understanding that, that position is just as important as any other. You go out there, you take care of business, you work hard, you work on your reads every day. You work on your first step, you work on throwing the bases, because the game, it just naturally comes that way. And at some point in time, the baseball gods will find you if you're not ready. So, just take it serious at all times.
All right, so is there any drills that you suggest with either younger or older outfielders?
I think one of the best drills that we do, and that you can do at pretty much all levels to help hand-eye coordination, consistent reads, and just being, in the right position to catch the ball, is you can take squishy balls, you can take tennis balls. I mean, you can take a sock. I know guys that didn't have much. One of my friends, his name was Carlos. He didn't have much, and coach would give him a sock. And I'm so serious. Like, we could have gave him a baseball or anything, but he asked so he could have something soft so he could teach his younger nephew. And you can go out and you take a partner, or you can do it by yourself, and you throw the ball up in the air, you throw your sock up in the air or whatever, and you work on your position of catching the ball, where you want to feel it, where you want to see it in the pocket, and then obviously palm up, elbow down. And if you have a partner, you have the luxury of throwing a ball off the wall. That's what I used to do. I had a tennis ball and I'd throw it off the wall, and then the side of my school. You can work on your first step, opening up, hip directions, opening up to the left, opening up to the right, and being able to get behind the ball, and positioning yourself so that you're getting in a position to throw the ball. So that's one of my favorite drills that I definitely did takeaway wise. And then another one that I really liked was, if you want to throw the ball from the outfield more efficiently, you can lay on your back and you can make, your four-seam fastball grip. And to work on getting your backspin, which was something I actually really struggled with in high school, was I would sit there and I would lay on my back, put my arm above my head, and I would work on flicking the ball and seeing the seam spin backwards. And if I knew the ball was coming back to my hand, obviously that was good backspin, because the ball would rotate hard and then come back to me. And so if you don't necessarily have that, you're going to flick the ball and you'll find out real quick you're going to break something in the house. When I was doing it for the first time, and I threw the ball and it went straight forward to TV. So you just want to make sure that you're able to get backspin on it, because when you're throwing the ball from the outfield, obviously, like I said, those guys that have those really hard, they throw those really hard balls and cannons like that, they can have the natural arm ability, but if you don't have any backspin, it's not going to go anywhere. So
yeah, no, definitely, that's good stuff. And I like that smoosh ball thing, because I know those are hard to catch, so you have to learn how to kind of be soft here and not stab like some outfielders might do. I think I used to do, a lot, when I was younger, I used to do that, where I would throw the ball up and kind of see the spin. So that's good stuff. Well, I appreciate you, man. Well, I think I covered everything that I needed to cover there. Again, if I miss anything, then we'll probably do like a video selfie, and I'll just kind of ask him questions as the fall goes on. And if you guys are watching this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, share this video. Until next time, keep Moy Style.